Thank you, Nikki. I'm going to introduce David Grady, who is a fellow museum guide. That's how we know each other. But he and I went and saw the Creative Growth exhibition at SFMOMA. And turns out, David, you have a whole background in working with people with developmental disabilities, and you have put together this whole show for us that helps us think more about that exhibition and that community. So, David,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's just a delight to be here. Thank you for having me, Rodney. And I'm just listening to the community project here that you have, Nikki. And I think there's a lot of overlap with the work that Helpers and Creativity Unlimited and State Council is doing. So we'll see if there's some energy that we can utilize and move forward. We titled this project Art is Art, and then realized that a book was created by Creativity Unlimited with the same title. So I think that's good. Talking about synergy, that's good synergy. So Art is Art. And our presenters today, myself, I work for the, I'm a museum guide, and I give tours at both San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and the Cantor Museum at Stanford. And then we have Marilyn Harrison, who will give a quick overview of Helpers Community and the retail store that she's the director for. We're delighted to have Gerald Wiggins here. Gerald Wiggins He's a working artist. His studio is at Creativity Explored in San Francisco, which is a partner agency to Creative Growth, which is the artists from the SFMOMA show. And then assisting Gerald is support staff from Creativity Explored, Glenn Beckman. So we're delighted to have you all here.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, we only have an hour, so we're going to be as brief as we can, but really focus in. And I want to get started just to begin with a little context. This is a photograph made in 1970 by the photographer Deanne Arbus. It was made, it was one of her last photo projects, and she went to, it was a developmental center in New Jersey. We're going to ask questions of the audience, so feel free to speak up. But as you look at this picture, is there anything that is being communicated? What are the messages being communicated within this photograph? Feel free to raise your hand or speak up or throw something in.
I'll encourage folks in the audience to share their thoughts. I'll jump in with mine. You're seeing these people who may have developmental disabilities, and I think the clouds in the background, it kind of looks kind of unsettling, I would say, and it's not I wouldn't say it's a very positive portrayal of those people.
Yeah, this is anybody else?
Yeah, they are. This is Catherine Rotto, and my daughter has Down syndrome, so I know how they feel. It's like they're compliant, they're institutionalized, they don't have options.
Absolutely, and this is the heritage of services and supports for people with developmental disability all the way through the 20th century. The idea here was it's based out of the medical model, and the idea being that the best care for folks with disabilities, developmental disabilities, would be in a hospital-like setting or an institutional setting. But there's there was a problem associated with that, in that the quality of care was pretty miserable. But you're right. This photograph, Rodney, you pointed out the sky in the background of it. You see everybody's kind of in costume. It's definitely a Halloween photograph. Could be that the residents of the center are going to the Halloween party, but they're wearing masks. The photographer is fairly far away from the scene. This photographer is kind of known for taking pictures up close, but she's standing back. The clouds are there. That's the time of day. Looks like it's late afternoon. Everything about this photograph is communicating otherness. The people are different there's a sense of difference and distance between those within the community and those who have been segregated or institutionalized.
Yeah, that handhold between the two figures in the foreground, it gives you that sense of community within that group.
Right.
I find comfort in that, but the rest of it's a little
well, and I love that point. And within the disability community, nothing for us without us. We have to make sure that all those within the disability community, they support themselves. We those who are advocates on their behalf align with them, but our goal is to let them support one another, and that's definitely evident here. Now, I want to compare that photograph to this upcoming day at the SFMOMA, where the photographer is it's Disability Portrait Day, and the advocate Alice Wong says this celebrates our culture by documenting who we are as we are. So we've come quite a ways in this 50-year period, 55-year period, where no longer is this a journey that the photographer has to go on, but now we're inviting folks with disabilities to come to the museum with their families and their friends and photographs themselves. So we are seeing kind of the arc of change, and how we've moved from the world of institutionalization toward one of integration and inclusion. Marilyn or Clifford, do you guys have any points that you want to bring up about this opportunity on the Saturday, July 27th? We encourage you guys to come. So I want to now move on.
It's going to be at SFMOMA, is that right?
It is at SFMOMA. This is a special day at SFMOMA from noon to 4. So it should be fun. It looks like a great day.
Looks like a very joyful day.
Yeah. And it really shows the change from over a generation on how we're the notion of inclusion.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the show at SFMOMA, one of the most important things, it's right there in the first gallery, is a history of the disability rights movement. And we're going to come back to this slide, but I want Marilyn to share a little bit about the founders of Creative Growth, and then supporting NIAD and Creativity Explored, the Katzes. What do you know about the Katzes, Marilyn?
You know, I'd like to introduce the Katzes, Florence and Elias Katz. They founded 3 different organizations during the time period as a response to a lot of the statewide cuts in services for adults with developmental disabilities back in the 1970s. And, you know, their whole premise was the importance of creativity and people with disabilities being able to create and provide value. And only during, you know, including people with disabilities can society or the community reach its fullest potential. So it's within each individual. And so they started Creative Growth in 1974. And in 1983, they opened Creativity Explored. And Creativity Explored, we have Haley and also Gerald with us today from Creativity Explored. So we're very excited to have them here. Yeah. And then Richmond NIAD, and NIAD stands for Nurturing Independence Through Artistic Development. That was started in 1982. So, you know, we are really fortunate that with their foresight and their vision, that today we are where we are, and that SFMOMA is recognizing the potential of the artists.
Thank you. Yeah, so a lot of tribute to this couple who were steadfast in creating these programs, which are now models throughout the country.
Right.
So this timeline, I just want to quickly go over this timeline. The history of disability services is a fascinating history. And this timeline, I think, is really important over at SFMOMA, with me having selected some important dates here. 1967, the term Lanterman is very important within the state of California for folks with developmental disability and for those with behavioral health or mental illness disorders. The Lanterman Act is the laws that regulate all the services and supports in California for people with developmental disabilities. It was a civil rights hallmark, and it's how the system in California supports our folks with developmental disabilities. We talked about the Katzes. Over here in 1990, a major day was the Capitol crawl, when people with disabilities, those in wheelchairs, went up to the Capitol. They dropped off their wheelchairs and then climbed the stairs up to the Capitol. And this was quite a protest. The guards, of course, were uncertain how to care for these protesters, and it was very, very instrumental in helping get the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. So that was a very significant date. The Kofelt decision is huge. This is a major issue. Kofelt was a Supreme Court decision, which was to minimize utilizing institutions as placements for people with developmental disabilities. The point of Kofelt was, if the person did not want to live in that institution, then the state or the governing authority or the administrative authority needed to find appropriate integrated living within the community. And then last year we had a wonderful show called Into the Brightness, which was over in Oakland. It was a great space to enjoy these artists from Creative Growth, but also Creativity Explored and NIAD. So I encourage you, if you do go to SFMOMA, take a look at that timeline, and then think about how this overlaps within your lives, and how disability is the importance of the ADA and disability in our own lives. If you think about curb cuts or universal design, those emerged out of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but curb cuts benefit the entire society. Every mom with a kid in a stroller loves curb cuts. And of course, access to buildings is made much more accessible because of the ADA. So this law is so important in shaping our current culture. Gerald, this is your opportunity. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Gerald Wiggins. Gerald is an artist over at Creativity Explored. Gerald, I can't remember, were you in the show in Oakland last year?
Oh yeah, I had like 6 pieces.
You had 6 pieces, you're right. Wonderful.
And I had 3 wood pieces.
Yeah, and 3 wood pieces, great. Gerald is not on display at SFMOMA, but we did invite him because of his background as an artist. This photograph, Gerald, I really like. Tell me about, what are you doing in this photo? What is it? One of your drawings? Can you tell me more about that photograph?
I'm probably drawing something. I don't know what, but I'm probably making up something, drawing.
Did you draw? When you draw, do you draw like in the field and you're drawing what you see in front of you?
Sometimes Great. When I was working, when I was at the other studio with Enrique, we used to go out to the park and we draw. I probably was drawing like that then. Okay, one of those days. The intensity of your focus really, I think, demonstrates your commitment to being an artist, a creative. Wonderful stuff here, Gerald. Thank you. We'll talk more to Gerald along the way. The next slide. So we have Creativity Explored, NIAD, Creative Growth, but this art movement is nationwide. There's so many programs now that offer art services and art retailing and create art training and the vocational training for artists. So in the Bay Area, we have Hope Services in Santa Clara County, Pomeroy Center, which is which is in San Francisco. I don't know One Step Beyond. Marilyn, what's One Step Beyond? One Step Beyond has a satellite in San Carlos in the South Bay, and they are an organization that supports our similar mission. They have a large studio in Arizona, an art studio. So Stephanie is from One Step Beyond, and she actually flew up. What you're seeing here are various artists from different organizations throughout the Bay Area that attended a Meet the Artist event that Helpers Community had last year in October. And it was a wonderful event. We had Donna from Creativity Explored, Naoki from Hope Studio,
Harrison from the Pomeroy Center, Stephanie Mathhouse from Ability Path, and Shane Tarkington, Tanya from Cedars in the North Bay, and Justin also from One Step Beyond. And all of them do different mediums. You know, we had ceramics, we had sculpture, we had painting, we had textiles, jewelry, and we did a Helpers Artisan Boutique pop-up at this event. So
this is wonderful. Yeah. Thanks, Marilyn. And then Matthew, do you know Donna? I'm sorry, Gerald, do you know Donna?
Donna that's here?
Yeah, Donna.
Donna Osborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donna.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
Yes, she's from Creativity.
Yeah, what's created over at these Creativity Explored, all these programs, is you're creating a community of artists. It's almost a salon. I'm wondering, Glenn, do you got a salon-like vibe over there at Creativity Explored?
When you say salon, you mean exhibiting,
just
or
a
just
group of artists who are communicating art and talking art, and one riffing off the other to just that.
Yeah,
feeling?
we're definitely a community. People don't work in isolation here. There's constant interchange throughout the day amongst the artists and the staff, talking about art, comparing things. I encourage everyone to come experience it themselves.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So art, to be an artist is not an easy job. You have to make the art, and then you got to sell the art, right? Clifford, right, Gerald?
Yeah.
You felt pretty good, Gerald.
Yeah.
How's your sales going, Gerald? Pretty good.
Yeah, computers, clay pieces, wood pieces, drawings. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it all.
Yeah, that's great. So it's an option for work. Marilyn, tell us about Helpers.
Well, I did want to say, while Gerald was talking about his work, is that we do sell Gerald's digital prints at Helpers Artisan Boutique. So we want Gerald to come and visit so he can see his work there. So the store is unique. Handcrafted items created by individuals with developmental disabilities from throughout the Bay Area and beyond. And all of our art is also a marketplace for our artists with developmental disabilities to feature and sell their art. And it is also a vocational training place for, as I mentioned earlier, clients from the ARC San Francisco. And they learn retail skills, how to sell, what are the features and benefits of the art, what does the art make you feel? You know, if you come to the store, you'll meet Christopher, and he is a client that we hired. He was our first employee at Helpers Artisan Boutique in 2019. And he will talk about the art. Irina is our second employee, and she also came from the ARC San Francisco, and she loves to talk about anything new that we have. You know, she'll tell you that functional ceramics, you can eat off of the plates, you know, they're non-toxic, lead-free, and they are just very excited to share their knowledge with customers.
That's wonderful. Great space. I know some people in our audience. I'm thinking I'll have to meet up with them and we'll come visit your store.
That would be great.
That's great. Hey, I want to put this out, Rodney, to your audience or our audience. You know, the work of people who are not, who do not have professional training, haven't gone to the finest universities, are not collected in major museums or by major galleries. That term has been described as outsider art. I'd love to get kind of a conversation going on what people think outsider art is.
Yeah, like for me, I feel like there's this kind of orthodoxy, this priesthood of people that in the art world who decide what is worthy of kind of putting up on a pedestal. And I'm always really interested in what is outside of that. You know, yeah. I feel like, you know, that's kind of where interesting new ideas come from.
Exactly.
So for me, that's part of it. Some other folks in the audience, please share your thoughts.
I'll just jump in and say, I think these past 5-10 years, we've seen this amazing momentum in terms of opening things up. and people not accepting sort of the given history, the dogmatic history that's been passed down about basically white males kind of have been in the spotlight all this time, and all this other art by all these other groups is equally valid. So that's been great to see, and I assume this will continue the momentum.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, that's kind of one of the goals we have for today's presentation, is to get that message across. Yeah, and I do think that there is a kind of this tendency, I'm not sure if it's worldwide, but definitely in Western culture, to set, to put a capital A in art and call it, art. There's a capital A type art and then art small a. And I think it's a little bit off-putting. It creates a barrier, and it might inhibit our own creativity. So our goal today, and one of the themes today, is maybe kind of reconsider what outsider art is. And I love the time. I was doing a little research and found this article on the internet. It is time to ditch the term outsider art. So we're going to kind of have that in the back of our minds as we begin to look at the works of the artists that that are at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And our first artist is, sorry about that, Camille Hol. Help me say it. Who can say it? Marilyn, how do you say her last name?
Oh, what? Is that correct, Glenn?
Camille Hol-Wet.
Hol-Wet.
So we'll go with that. And as you look at these slides, these are the artworks that are on display at SFMOMA. Just take a look at these artworks and tell me what is on Camille's mind here. What is she thinking about? She's definitely uses her portrait, but she's kind of drawing what's inside her mind at the same time. So what is she drawing about? What are things that are important for Camille here?
Things in her daily life.
Yeah.
Fresh fruit.
Fresh fruit. Where do you see fresh fruit?
I guess it's egg. It says egg test and chips, but those look like cherries to me.
No, that is, look again, Rodney. It's not egg.
It's EEG, isn't it? EEG.
Yeah. She's having a medical test to monitor her brainwave activity.
That's just me then.
You were. It's lunchtime, Rodney. You're thinking about an egg salad sandwich.
Well, it's all the good fresh fruit is in season right now.
Exactly. Yeah, and don't you love it though? I mean, she does seem to be.
Because it's a very positive.
Be having this EEG test, right, with these little cherry electrodes and that sort of thing.
But she's got a big smile on her face.
Yeah, she looks very content.
She's content here, which is interesting. Perhaps, again, she's getting care, but look at the painting above. I mean, what is she doing? And how many nights do we have where we wake up in the middle of the night with the same feeling, right?
She's thinking about all the drugs that she has to take. Is that it?
Well, I think what's really helpful about this artwork is that it does give you kind of a little insight into the daily life of a person with a developmental disability. One, the need for medical testing or the observation of brain activity. A lot of times the EEG tests are done to monitor seizure activities or epilepsy, or to see if there is epilepsy. I'm wondering if that's the case here. Medicine, the taking of medication, of course, folks with to have a developmental disability is not a mental illness. It is not a mental illness. And you do not there's no cure. There's no need to be cured from a developmental disability. There's no medication that's required if you have a developmental disability. But I'm thinking that the medicine that Camille's taking is because she does have a symptom of anxiety based on the painting to the left. So here's the role of medications in the life of a person with a developmental disability. And then moving is housing for people in the Bay Area is not good. Housing for people with disabilities is not any better. So a lot of the work I do with developmental disability includes improving policies toward housing. So when I see this painting of Camille moving to a new home and the anxiety associated with that, it just taps into this issue of housing and the need for housing for folks with developmental disability. Currently, those with developmental disability, and I think we had a parent here who said she has a daughter.
Yeah, that's me, Catherine.
Catherine, is your daughter living with you still, or is she living independently?
No. She just moved there 2 years ago, but she had been with us up until the age of 26.
Wow, yeah. See, till 26. So more and more folks with developmental disability, it's kind of a hidden homelessness in that they're living with their parents and their families of origin as the families of origin age. And so it's parents within the world of developmental disability. Great tribute goes to families and parents because of the work they do in caring and bringing their children, having their children included in community. A lot of the stuff we're talking about today is because parents have aligned with their children to support their advancement. So we really appreciate that.
David, I want to read a couple of comments in chat.
Sure.
Jerry says, we all benefit when we open ourselves to art out of the mainstream. We discover new creativity and phenomenal artists.
Yeah.
Roger points out, looks like she's opening doors in the moving pic.
Yeah, one door closed, another one open. And if you look at the bottom, look at how the floor kind of flows into the hallway. That's an interesting use of color at the bottom right of that corner.
And what I really like about her paintings, it could be that if I were to talk to her and she was to verbalize some of these thoughts of hers, I might, it might be a harder way for her to communicate, but this communicates very clearly. You get a real sense of like who she sees herself as in the things that she's struggling with.
Absolutely. And she says it in her quote, which is at the top of the slide. Hey, Gerald, your artwork, I don't think you have the anxiety like Camille does. How do you handle your stress?
Just watch a lot of good stuff on TV.
Got some good shows. That's cool. Very good.
Yeah. Cartoons, probably.
Camille is that
you kind of enjoy what's on television. And then that photograph of you intense doing that drawing, you can't be anxious when you're that focused in on making art. So I really appreciate that.
Get really focused.
Yeah. This is Joseph Aleph. I think it's one of the larger works in the show. It's wall size. Joseph, I love this quote. I used to put faces in my art, and now it's all colors and shape. It is easier to get all the emotions out without the people. To me, that is about as professional and descriptive a definition of abstract expressionism as you're ever going to find.
Yeah.
So when you go in front of a Jackson Pollock or a Mark Rothko, think of this quote: the reduction of the figure and the removal of it from the abstract painting was an effort to get the emotions out. So what are the emotions that are here? What's the energy that this painting has?
Pretty intense. It seems to me like it could be some kind of anxiety or some kind of it doesn't seem like a really placid piece.
So you get a little sense of tension. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot of movement in it.
Yeah. Imagine his arm. So this is, like I said, a large work. I think it's about 12 feet long, Rodney, wouldn't you say? Maybe a little longer, and about 5 feet high. So imagine his arm with a paintbrush on it. How does the arm move across the canvas?
Like this.
I love it. Yeah, there you go. Kind of full strokes.
What I'm doing when I'm making a clay piece, I don't know what to do with my hands, so I just wind up holding it.
Yeah, it's a physical activity. Yeah, and that's where a lot of your emotions come out in that fit. So that's the expressionistic part. And so there's a similar painting like this that has this kind of arcing form, and it's created by this stroke of the arm, like Gerald was making. And I get the sense that it moves from maybe the right to the left, that he's moving from right to left. And then that strong black line that kind of outlines many of the colors. I just think this is a wonderful piece.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Joseph's work here?
There's a couple in chat. Sandy says to me, it looks kind of like they are dancing. And then Sherry says she actually does see faces in this piece.
Oh, you do get a sense of figure. Oh, that's interesting. So that's not unusual either, because we're always trying to put a story to the artwork. So oftentimes we will put a figure, and it is an up and down kind of a life force. There is a left and right movement, but the line itself is an arcing up and down for real. When you have an up and down force, that's a life force or a representational force. Okay, good stuff. Now we'll move on to our next artist. Who's familiar with William Scott? Anyone?
Well, I wasn't before I saw this exhibition, but boy, what a wonderful artist of San Francisco.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody familiar with him? Gerald, I think your work very much kind of is aligned with William's work.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that.
You like his stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Gerald was commissioned to create this wall painting. There's within the SFMOMA on a regular basis. The museum itself commissions local artists to do wall paintings, and this was commissioned for the show and part of that the wall painting project at SFMOMA. William has this attitude toward San Francisco that, to me, really is enlightened and hopeful, and maybe a good way to think about our future. Peace and Love in the City 2024. I'll read this quote of his. I paint wholesome encounters. I paint wholesome people. This is my self-portrait. That one day I will come back as a child while being reborn again in 1974 to be with my mom in another life. I will be wearing afro sheen, wearing a big afro when time comes again, and bring dozens of people back to life who lost their lives of killing and gun violence, who need wholesome encounters. Wholesome encounters comes to the world to create a good world and good people everywhere. Wholesome encounters are real peacemakers. Any thoughts about that?
Saturday mornings.
Say that again?
No, when I was little, it kind of reminded me of on Saturday mornings in Alabama when I was watching cartoons.
Yeah, it brings back memories.
Yeah.
You like that idea? Yeah, that positive idea. So as you see in this painting, there's references to the city here, San Francisco here over to the left. And then important people in William's life, including his mother and himself. He does self-portraits here. I think he grew up, or is Maryland, Hunters Point, is he a resident of Hunters Point, or was?
I'm not sure.
I think he is. I remember reading that in the museum text, and and I'm pretty familiar with Bayview Hunters Point.
Yeah,
and this is like a very hopeful and positive portrait. And it's also kind of imagining a better future. Like if we can get past the violence that is unfortunately part of our society, we can have a better world. And so it's very hopeful.
I'm sorry, I lost my spot here. Let me get back. Come on. There it is. Absolutely. And if you talk to William, they have video of him. This is not a conceptual idea. This is not idea. This is a belief of his. And so he speaks of it as in the first person, and he speaks of it in the here and now, and he speaks of it as if his art is a proof of this philosophy of his, this wholesome philosophy of his. So these are, there's a gallery space, besides the wall project, there's gallery space devoted to his artwork, which is riffing off of the wall piece, but also an elaboration of what's in that wall piece. These are self-portraits of him. So you can kind of see this attitude. He's very active in his church. So you have this old life versus new life, God's plan, very, very important. And then he's got a whole cosmology that includes I'm sorry, my mouse is misbehaving. All right. Sorry about that. All right. He's got this whole cosmology, which includes the return of these people who've died to violence through alien activity or UFOs and that sort of thing. So you see his interest in all that. And then just quickly, if you look at the lower piece, this shield here, you see the UFO, but also look at what are the people? Tell me about the people. What are they? How do they look to you?
Well, they're all smiling. And they're wonderful portraits. I love the background that he uses. You know.
Yeah. Anybody else? What are the other thoughts about Williams' work and his attitude and his sense of peace and joy?
Paco likes it. Paco says, "This is so cool." Love his use of the word wholesome, Leslie says.
Yeah.
Paco says, "I really love the background. Very brilliant." And he's just like really great at he's a good portraitist. Sherry has her hand raised. Go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, I on the bottom right, I'm just focused on citizenship under skyline. I love that citizen.
He has clever wordplay throughout all his works, right?
And I also have a question about his breasts in the upper picture. I don't understand the line on the coming from the, I guess, both nipples, and then that circle by the belly on the left. Does anybody understand that?
No, not familiar.
Could that be from gun violence, like the old life? And then I don't know if it's
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it's interpretive. Maybe he's just riffing off it. To me, the figures look very similar. I'm not sure if it's a painterly choice, if it's a happenstance. I'm not sure at all. You see him self-portrait here too in a suit, so he's definitely has the look for his Sunday go to meeting worked as well. So.
And I don't think you have an image, but there's a wonderful, he actually painted on a suit jacket that's in the gallery. And that is totally delightful. There's a couple comments in chat from Sandy and Barbara noting the diversity of people in the shield, that we're seeing white, black, brown people all together, all happy, everyone getting along.
Yeah, it's just this amazing. It's an infectious attitude. When he's interviewed on the video, again, this is his cosmology. It's his philosophy. He lives by it. It doesn't occupy a fantasy as much as he's willing the truth to be through his artwork, which I think is very sophisticated and not an unusual aspect of what artists do in terms of willing their world into being. So I really appreciate Williams' work. Great artist here. Okay, and then we're gonna another important artist is Judith Scott. Again, I'll start off with just asking some open-ended questions. What's going on in these two works here? What do you see?
I believe I see a bicycle wheel with all kinds of other stuff on a chair. So it seems like something that Marcel Duchamp would love.
Yeah, it's totally interpretive of Marcel Duchamp, isn't it?
I mean, he was a white male artist from the past, but he was kind of an outsider in his own way.
Yeah, he definitely he opened the door a little wider for anyone who wants to claim their creativity as art, for sure. Marilyn, what do you know about this work? What about the work on the right?
Well, it's a multimedia textile piece. From this angle, it looks like a heart.
That's wonderful. I don't think Judith would mind you saying that. It's got a lot of vibes to it. One of them is a heart vibe. Yep. Anybody from our audience, some thoughts about this work? What's going on in this work?
So a couple comments in chat. Sherry says unraveling or putting together. And Nikki Tresvina, her nylons got tangled up in the dryer. So they're getting some narrative in there.
It's wonderful.
And, well, you'll probably tell us the story behind her, which
Yeah, no, this is a real example of that in terms of what makes us human. The fact that human beings are creative is not everyone has that potential of creativity. Judith is this Judith is this person who, when Deanne Arbus took that photograph, Judith was a resident of an institution in Ohio. She's passed. She had Down syndrome, and she could not hear. She was deaf. And it was the instruction of the physician the pediatrician, to the family to say that the best thing for Judith was to place her in an institution. And this was a predominant message in the 20th century to families who had children with disabilities. Judith's parents passed away. Judith's sister, who lived on the East Bay, went out as the conservator, went out and met with Judith and brought her to California, and began needing these services that were talked about a little earlier, and was that activity of what's in the Lanterman Act, which I described earlier, led Judith to be enrolled in creative growth. Or was it creativity explore? I think it's creative growth. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Creative growth, yes.
And she was in her 60s at the time. She did not use words to communicate. What she communicated by going around and taking things and wrapping things, wrapping. So she takes that chair and wraps it. She takes that bicycle rim and wraps it. She takes, well, what do you all think might be inside that heart-shaped object on the right? Or if you were to wrap something, what would you wrap yourself, and what would it be for? Or why do you suppose Judith had this compulsion to wrap like she's doing?
I suppose to keep things safe for herself.
Yeah, Catherine, I'm spot on with that. Yeah, imagine this life she had: institutional living, congregate living, cared for in ratios of maybe 1 to 20. Her identity, what identity did she have until she came to California, right? And so, of course, the things that were core to her, she was going to take care of. She was going to create a safe place for them. Any other thought?
Yeah, it also gave her agency and control over her environment, which she probably never had before she was in an art studio somewhere.
Yeah. And apparently she had quite a bit of agency and control, because things went missing at the arts, at creative growth quite frequently. Yeah, so it was an act of maybe defiance, an act of identity, and an act of safety, and an act of along with your point of view about this being a heart. When you look at it, another metaphor that comes to my mind, it's a nest. It has a feeling of a nest,
Barbara Blake has a comment in chat. She says she says it's maybe an act of something comforting. I often wrap a scarf around my neck, my hand, my foot, the warmth of it.
Yeah. I think that's all here. It's all here in this work. Yeah. So both of these works are part of the SFMOMA collection. This one is in the show. The wheelchair is in the show, whereas this one is in a gallery on the second floor next to the show. And it's been on display at SFMOMA frequently. So Judith is part of the oeuvre of the SFMOMA for sure. All right, let's talk about our resident artist here today, Gerald. So Gerald, here's some of your works. We have your drawings and your sculptures. Which do you want to talk about? Which is your? Tell me your practice.
Well, I like to draw, and I like to do computers, wood. Speaking of wood, I got a wood piece.
You want to show that wood?
Are you going to show it?
Show something that recently finished.
Yeah, look at that.
So cool.
That's all burnt
Wow.
into the wood using wood burning and carving.
Wow. And that's a leopard, Gerald?
It's a wildcat.
Wow.
A wildcat.
So it was printed from wood, or is it?
You burn into it with the.
He actually
wood.
drew with the word, like with wood burning.
So it's like that's the medium that it's on is the wood.
Yeah, it's a wood medium. Yeah.
Wow.
Gerald, so
how long did it take you to do that?
It took a long time to finish it down.
Yeah, you can see the work. I don't know. I'll put it close in.
Detailed.
Yeah, we have a slide of it too. We have a slide of it too. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to show some slides.
So Gerald, I love how we talked about William Scott and his painting of the city. You paint the city or draw the city as well.
Yeah. That was really fun, but it took a little while.
You had that intense look on your face, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I get like that when I'm focused.
You get really lost in the process. Total focus. Yeah.
And then this blue, the blues on this this house here. I love the color. They just enhance the work entirely. It's just a beautiful work. That's ink on paper.
No, that was on the computer.
That's a digital
that's
print.
computer.
Wow.
Whoa. Yeah. All right. And you draw on the iPad screen, or you use a stylus?
On the iPad and the computer.
You and I have to meet because I do the same thing. I do a lot of my drawing on the phone. I have a way of creating images on the phone that help me pass the time.
Yeah.
All right, now,
cool.
Gerald, I want to know about this character here on the bottom in the middle. Tell us more about this person.
Well, he's a person that I made up. What I think most special about him is his face, how it shines, because it kind of put me like in the mind of like, you know how when it's a hot day, you go outside and then you just start sweating and then you start shining. Kind of put me in the mind of that.
I like the hat. What kind of hat is he wearing?
I guess it would be like a Muslim hat a little bit, but different than a Muslim hat.
But you made it up out of you didn't look at anything to do that.
Yeah.
Great use of color. Yeah. So you say you make these works to kind of be, tell me more about the reason you make these works. You have a wonderful quote.
The reason I like them because to make the people happy, to make me happy when I finish, when I get it out of my head and put it down on the figure.
So in that way, it's about happiness. You want to get you get positive messages out is one of your goals.
Yeah.
That's right.
It sends out joy in the studio to everyone. That's kind of your group, right? Yeah.
It also connects us to you as an artist, right? Like once you make it and then I see your art and I love it, you and I have a connection.
Yeah. Well, that's the communication, Rodney, right? Yeah. Does anybody have a question for Gerald?
Oh, I'm wondering about that piece in the background. Is that one of yours or one of your fellow artists?
Which one? In this slide?
The background of your Zoom video camera.
Oh no, that is whose work? That is a rug that was done by, I'm forgetting the artist. We collaborated with Crate and Barrel, and some of our artists design rugs. So that is what you're looking at behind it.
Wonderful, yeah. Tell us about Everything is Quiet. Is that a show, Gerald, you did?
Yeah, that was the show that we had. When was that, Glenn?
A while ago. That was like, at least probably 5 years or more.
5 years ago, yeah.
So you have your clay pieces.
These are your clay pieces, right? Good. So and then I love this self-portrait.
Thanks. I had that one hanging on my wall.
You want to show them what you're working on? This is a work in progress.
I'm working on Medusa.
He's doing a Medusa. I don't know if you guys can see with great detail. And,
wow.
Nice.
Yeah, and he added a face to every snake, which is not in the original image. He gave each snake their own little personality there. So pretty great piece, Gerald.
I see Leslie has her hand raised. Leslie, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, yeah, I was wondering, maybe you could go back to the slide just prior to this one. That little guy down on the left-hand corner, can you tell us a little bit about him?
He's he's like a he works he's like a worker, but I could see him like on what's that street?
What street?
That's it. He looked like he could work on what's that? In the where business people work at.
Downtown?
Oh, financial.
Oh,
He looked
yeah.
like he could fit down there.
On Market
Because
Street?
he's got a suit on. Yeah.
Montgomery
Like he could
Street.
fit right in.
Montgomery.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I
all
think
dressed
I
for
worked with a guy like that at Schwab, I remember.
I know him.
Well, even still, it looks like a lousy Monday for this poor little guy, but he seems like he's happy underneath it all. So that's a great little image. You said you kind of do creatures as well?
Yeah.
Tell me about
that one is one
That's
of them.
one of them. If you go to the slide from the show and the next, yeah, I think those people are creatures there.
Some of them are people and some of them are creatures.
And the creatures, are those kind of related to your interest in cartoons and shows on TV, or is it some from...
I just make those up because they're fun.
Okay. Back to fun and happiness. I love it.
We have a comment from Sherry. Gerald, she says, your work is beautiful and creative. I love that you excel in so many mediums. Yeah, that was my thing, was you're somebody who works in a lot of different media.
Yeah.
Is there just like you like to move around and try different?
I don't want to just stay in one thing so I don't get bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to move around.
And everything you do has your stamp on it, has a style, two-dimensional. Yeah. So not all artists are capable, at least here, of sort of moving around media and it looking sort of cohesive. But Gerald's got such a strong take on things and personal style.
Really wonderful. So this is your wood burning, use of the wood burning tool.
Okay, I already had that.
And look at the detail in the background, everyone. It's just amazing. I bet there was you had to worry about the smoke alarm going off.
No, no.
Yeah, that wildcat looks a little maybe a little in trouble or a little kind of worn out or tired of all this looking at it.
Sherry was asking about the look on the face of the cat.
I think he looks peaceful. He's looked peaceful. He's probably waiting for his next meal.
Yeah,
there we go.
Everyday issues. I love it. I love it. All right. Gerald, these are wonderful works. It's a treat to have you here today, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're doing good on time. I'm so impressed with our timing today. We started off this idea of, well, Marilyn, you came up with art is art, and I just loved it. Well, when you said art is art, what was the meaning behind that?
Well, actually for me, art is actually the title of a Creativity Explored book.
The book, right.
Was introduced this year. And but when I think of art as art, it doesn't matter the price of art. It could be $10 to thousands of dollars, but it is an expression. And it's an expression of creativity, and it's art is art, no matter the cost. And so that's what I think of,
I think it's kind of profound in what you're saying, because if you think about when we started, we talked about outsider art, this idea that there are those who have the magic wand placed on their shoulders and are said to be artists. And they're the ones who get collected. They're the ones who get, and they have they're known for creating masterpieces. They're known for having techniques that make things make things look real and three-dimensional on flat surfaces. They're very good at color theory, all that sort of stuff. But that pushes everyone else away. So it creates a division. And I this quote here, this dictionary, not part of the artistic establishment. Who decided what the art establishment is? I had no say in the matter, because it seems to be pretty exclusive, right? And then if you look at some of the synonyms for outsider art, which this is where I think it gets kind of pretty negative about it's primitive, it's vernacular, it's naive, all these things. Do you think that's accurate? When we looked at the art today, how would we change the definition, or would we? What do we want to call insider or outsider art?
Well, we want to remove the barrier between the two of them and just say, people create art. We should pay attention to many different artists and not confine ourselves to one particular community.
Right.
Right.
Repeat that, Gerald. I think you were.
See what's in their heart. That'll tell you who they is.
Their heart or their art?
Their heart.
Their heart. Okay. Which rhymes with art?
Yeah.
The better you can put what's in your heart onto the surface,
yeah,
the stronger the work, for sure.
Yeah, and then their true self will come out.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this is what. So we were talking about the arc of disability rights a little earlier, and art has in all cultures, in all communities. An identity is created. And I take that back. An identity of a culture is shared through their artwork. Glenn, I don't know how long you've been in the system of services for folks with developmental disability, or Marilyn, your background. But when I started, the time killers were a box of crayons and a coloring book was the activity for folks with disabilities. Right? There was never this.
Yeah.
That was like, well, give them and so they were back to that photograph of passing time with the professionals saying, here's a box of crayons. Those days are over. Thankfully they're older. We've now, the page is empty. The material is the tools are much better, and what we're seeing is the emergence of an identity for disability. Which I just think is wonderful, and I think that's what's being conveyed at the SFMOMA in the creativity growth. So, Rodney, we're toward wrapping up. Is there any final comments from anyone?
Well, I feel like there's a call to action. One of which is go to the Creative Growth exhibition at SFMOMA, which is up through October the 6th. Go to Marilyn's gallery at 1947 Union Street. Go, engage with these artistic organizations in our Bay Area community, and start to really, engage with this art. That to me are the big takeaways.
Thanks.
From
appreciate that, Rodney.
Other thoughts?
I just wanted to say that I think it's all about inclusivity as well. It's about dropping the barriers, about opening everything up to the whole community and not labeling. It's about, inclusivity. So when I do a pop-up, for example, and a pop-up is a shop that is temporary in a location, it could be at an event or something, but I am really striving to be part of pop-ups that are not just for the developmentally disabled community, but inclusive to the total community. For example, we're doing one at Filoli this year, and it's going to be 45 booths, and we happen to be an art booth, but it is developmentally disabled artists, but we are art first. And I think that's something important to think about and remember.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a great point. We are very close to our cutoff time. So I think I just want to thank all of you, David, Marilyn, Gerald, Glenn, in our audience for participating in this great discussion. It's a wonderful juxtaposition of the mission of Community Living Campaign with our subject matter of art in the Bay Area community. So I'm really grateful to all of you for coming.
Well, Rodney, thanks for inviting us. Truly a delight. Gerald, it was so neat to meet you. We've got to get together. I got to show you my my little phone drawings, and you got to show me your computer drawings, and we'll do that.
All right, let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Glenn, nice to work with you. Everyone here, great to see some of my old friends and some of my new friends.
It was my pleasure, David. And
thank you, Paco. If anybody wants to send an email, here are our email addresses. And then an email to Gerald, you can send it to Glenn and he'll get it over to Gerald.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Rod,
Have a
it was
great
so
day.
great to see you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye,
Jen.
everybody.
Bye. See you
Bye,
later.
Rodney.
All right,
See you.
bye.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye, Nikki.
Bye, Paco.
Bye, Rodney. Bye, Sherry. Bye, Marlene.